Hello here. This is ZPAY Speaking. This is the second week of the movement for Black Lives Matter. So in our channel, we show the support for this movement, but we also want to keep tab on our speech techniques. Therefore, today, we select a lot of speech of this week. We select two of them to show how important it is of showing emotion in deliver one message. And today's video is going to be a bit different from before, where we do a comparison example. So we will show one good example and bad example. And these two speakers are deliver more or less the same message. So we want to demonstrate you in the clip that how different showing emotion can make. And you can guess who's the good speaker, who's the bad speaker here. So Aaron, do you have anything to add for today's journey? Do you have specific stuff to say?
I'm saving it all for later. Let's just jump into it.
Aaron saving all his firepower for later. So let's get into the clip. Let's see where the action is. So first we have Joe Biden. You can guess he's good or bad speaker, but let's hear his speech and then we have a comment afterwards.
I have to take a moment to address something that the President said this morning. Toward the end of his remarks, President Trump said he hopes that, quote, George Florid is looking down and seeing this is a great day for our country. He was speaking of a man who was brutally killed by an act of needless violence and by a larger tide of injustice that has metastasized on this president's watch as he's moved to split us based on race and religion, ethnicity. George Floyd's last word.
So here we show the only first 30 seconds just to get a general idea here. And my eyes getting.
Yeah, I mean, like, good message. It makes sense. He's saying what I think people expect him to say, which I think is probably the issue, because honestly, I think he believes what he's saying, but his voice does not tell me he believes what he's saying. I think he does actually believe it, or at least I hope he does. I hope he wouldn't say something he doesn't believe. But his voice, his face, they do not show that he feels any of it. For example, his eyes are just scanning. Like, he looks like he's looking around, looking for a reason to care, right? It doesn't add any emotion, doesn't add any feeling. There's nothing in there that makes me think that he actually has a dog in this fight. He's just kind of scanning. His voice doesn't change. Occasionally it gets a little higher or a little lower, but it's like minimum effort. He's disinterested. There's no emotion. He just seems like tired or bored. And I think maybe it's because he's done this so much and he's like, wow, this is stupid. But at the same time, present with something. I need, as your audience, I need to feel like you care about what you're saying before I care about what you're saying. If you don't care, why should I? I've always been a firm believer that the speaker is the leader and we should lead by example. Show that you care. Don't condemn something with the voice of, my PR team has told me to condemn this. Condemn with the voice of, this is bad. Make me believe it. Anyway, I have more to say, but I won't for now.
I just wish Joe has a bit more energy behind his voice. He's really drag on and his voice is really light. I just have a few more second clip I really want to see because in the next few seconds, Joe actually say some really iconic word of this week, which is, I can breathe. So these are three really, really powerful words. And let's see how Joe delivered. I think he didn't match his expectation. Let's just spend a few seconds here.
Sure.
George Floyd's last words, I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
Yes, so that's all I want to show. So he does use a repetition, which is a technique we mentioned last week. So that's pretty nice. But then the energy, okay, it's like these such powerful words, it echoes throughout the world this week. It traveled to Europe and back. Even in Canada, we have a huge echo about this movement. So give some energy to these three powerful words. That's all I want to say.
And I think there's a way of, even if we don't want to be energetic, there's a way of still being impactful, right? So if I say, I can't breathe, were the last words of George Floyd, that the pausing, I can't breathe, you have to have a certain timbre to your voice. You almost have to say the words like they're absurd. I can't breathe. You say it like it's madness that you have to say them, and then it comes across as emotion. That's my opinion. But
yeah. Okay, so that's just basically our sum up for Joe Biden's speech here. And we want to show you how a good speaker can deliver a same content, achieve a way better impact and reach way more souls in this world. Well, I will switch to the next video clip and let's see how that is done.
Yeah.
So here is Anderson Cooper. In this show, he actually aired out a lot of emotion that's collected in the first few days of this event. And he let it out on the television, and he showed his emotion in this live CNN event. And let's see how he has done this and what's his shining points.
I've seen societies fall apart as a reporter. I've seen people dying in the streets while protesting. I've seen countries ripped apart by hate and misinformation and lies and political demagogues and racism. We can't let that happen here. Of course, violence is no answer, but people protesting deserve answers, and they haven't gotten them, no matter how many black men have been murdered, lynched, imprisoned, mistreated, redlined, blackballed from jobs. We all know it. People protesting in the streets, they know it, and they're tired of it. And we should be too. There's a curfew in New York tonight at 11 p.m. And we remember another curfew, August 1943. That was the last time there was a curfew like this in the city. And you know what that curfew was caused by? 1943, a white police officer shooting a black soldier. The years change, the decades go by, and the sad truth remains.
You know what I find really interesting?
Yeah.
Like, I was just thinking of it now. I was saying Joe Biden sounds tired and bored, but the funny thing is Anderson Cooper sounds tired too, but it's a different kind of tired. He's tired of something. And I think he does a great job of showing his emotion. The way he looks at the camera, and sure, he does have it easier because he's a reporter, so he knows exactly where his audience's eyes are, but he's holding that eye contact. Biden's just kind of scanning. Whereas Anderson Cooper looks directly at the camera. If I were Joe Biden in his situation, I would be looking out at points in the audience to try and get that same effect for as many people as possible. And yeah, it won't be quite the same because we can't stare at one camera, but it's so much more impactful when I can use my eyes like that. When my voice has a hardness to it. Yeah, he wasn't freaking out. He wasn't using a ton of emotion in that sense, and that's good. But Anderson Cooper had a hardness to his voice that says, this is unacceptable. That he is saying that he's done with something. His facial expressions say it. His repetitions of words say it. So we look at the difference between Joe Biden saying, I can't breathe, and Anderson Cooper saying, I have seen, I have seen, I have seen. And there's a huge difference between those things because Joe Biden says it, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. Anderson Cooper says, I have seen countries like this. I have seen places like this, where the words are made to stand out because he makes some of them louder, some of them longer, some of them sharper, some of them more heavily enunciated. And because of that, he ends up with a much more emotional presentation that actually has an impact on his audience. And I think it's madness that people will present something that could be a rallying cry in some sense for a lot of people, but they present it emotionally and therefore remove any chance of people actually responding to it in a meaningful way. And I tend to think that emotion is going to be the basis for connection. It's going to be how we get those interactions with people that get people to think. Instead, you just get, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, right? Instead, it's, I can't breathe. Make it real. That's my problem with what Joe Biden was doing is he doesn't care. I mean, like I say, I think he actually does, but the way he presents it tells me that he doesn't care.
Yeah, in a way, yeah, it's really disappointing because Joe Biden today is like the other voice against Trump's speech. Trump has a speech at the end of the day calling some outrageous things. So then Joe Biden was posted over the internet as the other voice, the other side voice, and he didn't take it home. He didn't hammer that in. So that's disappointing. But what I want to focus here a bit more is a controlled emotion from Anderson Cooper. So as we know, like live news reporter shouldn't show opinion too much if you're really a journalist. You report facts and then you'll be done with it. You get information go across. But then this is a very, very special time. And Anderson Cooper has opinion because he sees things. So his control emotion first show up as he's saying 3 examples of what he have saw when country, when society fall apart, when people don't care. So let's start things off. It was a controlled reason going in. And he transitioned really well towards in the end. He looked back towards, say, this has happened before in 40s, and he used smart words. Day has goes, decades have come, but few things have changed. So again, it's parallelism matched with his controlled emotion. So in a way, emotion and the words are connected, right? Anderson Cooper connect his emotion to his words. For sure, he wrote a speech up. We all wrote our speech up. Same as Joe Biden. Why wouldn't Joe Biden say something of I can breathe with a more impactful way? That is just a bit disappointing. Again, same message. It's 2 speakers, same message, very different style, and impact are way different. We can all know which one can reach more people's heart than the other.
Yeah, and just a small thing to add, like you mentioned that reporters aren't supposed to show a lot of emotion, and that's I tend to agree. I think that's very true. But I do think that Anderson Cooper, he didn't go overboard with the emotion either, right? It's not like he was screaming, but he still manages to convey it in a really compelling way. And you're also right in saying that Biden's supposed to be the counterpoint to what Trump's saying, but passively kind of repeating the party line of, oh, this is bad, it doesn't really feel like a counterpoint.
No.
It just feels like a phoning it in kind of thing. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, we cannot know, but why he say as what he said, maybe his personality, but as one of the goals of our channel, we want to get like under the skin of what they are really saying. It's from these words, you can really see people's mind a bit, unless the speaker is like they try to manipulate the public by lying or acting. That's a whole different scenario. But in this sense, if Joe has any emotion, that's the moment to let it out, to let people know who he really is. What's the reason people should support him, right? And that part didn't get. But bring back to all the listeners' perspective is in everybody's life, we will come across the point you need to convince someone to do something, or you need to convince a project proposal. A lot of time you only get one shot. How many times you think Joe gonna get a chance to run for president? Maybe just this time. You get one shot, you blew it off, you are gone. If you are Clinton, you can try twice, but after 2 times, you're done. So the window is slim for this delivery, and this is a time where the words matters. A thoughtful and crafty words really matter.
Yeah, and I think you're right. He may only get one shot, and it should be a shoe-in. But the softball delivery doesn't Doesn't do it for me. And again, I'm Canadian.
Yeah.
He doesn't care what I think.
Yeah, well, okay. I think that's a last wrap up for this episode of ZPAY Speaking. Our key message is again, show the emotion, match the content, and be impactful, and bring that to your day-to-day life, and live the best you can. So here's ZPAY Speaking, and we are really kind of feel sorry about what's going on. That's why I bring this content in, focus on the speech. But we want to let the audience know our heart, our with the people on the right side of history here. And it is time to make a push. Hopefully a real change will come. But here is ZPAY Speaking, and we hope to see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.